I'm with the Center of Development Studies in Cambridge, and basically I'm going to show you a model that I started at Stanford University in the late 1990s. We were doing sustainable live projects in architecture studios, using orphanages, SOS children's villages in Guatemala and Mexico for 6 years. And I had a Fulbright to Sri Lanka and worked there after the tsunami. Coastal development projects, and I came to realize that being this kind of Western entity going into the so-called developing world with a lot of rich kids and helping the poor, there's something the matter with that model. So what I realized is I've got to go to these places and live and work there on site and become a part of them and teach the locals how to kind of help themselves. So that's what this is about. It's my work and experience in 4 countries, 4 divided nations: Korea, Cyprus, Sri Lanka, and most recently Uganda. I was in Uganda last year. And to make a long story short, it's a 30-page paper, it'll be on the website. I'm going to show you the work of my students to tell the story. So this is what the paper is about. All that is necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. For me, that's a big part of sustainability. In Cambridge, we define sustainability as, of course, environmental concern, of course, futurity, public participation. Are you consulting the users of your project? Remember, I'm an architect. And finally, equity, and that's what this is all about. Equity is, I design a disaster relief house for you, and I design one for you, and I give her a sauna. I give you the outdoor shower. I create social tension. I'm not treating you equitably. And if we're going to try to help planet Earth, not just the West, we have to work throughout the planet. So, article I wrote out of Stanford, where we started in Latin America. Project work, the site plan, the original site, studio at Stanford, reinventing the shack, so it would be something that you or I would want to live in. Everything goes onto a website. This was in 2003 or something, so it's stored, so when I'm in Guatemala I can access the work easily rather than carrying paper around. Larger narrative is the world is now flat, so I've got Turkish students, for instance, working on a homeless shelter in England. The advantage that African and Asian students have is that they can crack illegally any computer program they want. They're way ahead of North Americans when it comes to digital technology now. These are the 4 arenas. Let's see if I can show you. So I started out in Sri Lanka as a Fulbright professor after the tsunami. Then I went back to the States for a wee bit. And I went to Korea, into my notes. Also North Korea. Could talk a lot about that, but that's not the focus of this session. And Cyprus, both North and South Cyprus, again, divided. Sri Lanka is not really divided now, theoretically, because of the war, but it is, in fact. And Uganda, which was united, and you all probably know about the Joseph Kony video, which happened 10 years much too late. This is just a little summary. You don't really need it to accomplish your goal. There are many ways around it, is what I've been finding as I go out and about. So this would be good for the homeless in Hawaii, as well as disaster relief situations, because you put people in tents, and it's supposed to be for 3 months, but guess what? People end up living in tents for 3 years, 10 years, etc. So if you're going to give them a tent, why not give them a tent that they want to live in for a long time, that you or I would want to live in? My surfers would be happy here. This is my design for a little plantation-style house. Again, reinventing the shack, something we'd all like to live in. My best student in Sri Lanka, in his tsunami house, gabions, you put all the rubble from the sea into a kind of metal cage. After tsunami, nobody wants to sleep on the ground floor, even though sleeping on a second floor would do nobody any good. That's where everybody wants to be, stuff like that. That house under construction. Me on site, so all the NGOs came to Sri Lanka and did this sort of thing. Nobody wanted to live in them. Sri Lankans don't like bathrooms in their houses. They like outhouses. They put sand in the interior bathroom and not use them. Point is, why build this when you can build this or this for the same price? Why? Because engineers were involved, not architects. Why do engineers get all the work in these sorts of situations? I don't know. So I'm trying to figure out that for a long time. I do think there's an underlying psychology. If we're going to help the poor, let's not give them anything better than what we have, because then they've got all the power. So there's also saying, well, help them, but like give them your old pair of shoes, not your best brand new pair of shoes, sort of psychology. Tsunami village in southern India for ostracized widows. Hinduism treats women who've lost their husbands worse than dirt. So that was a village for them. Done at a school in the Midwest. Everything goes onto a website that's under construction. When I was doing tsunami work, part of the problem is just sometimes identifying decent product. So I was in Thailand, driving along the road, all of a sudden, boom, saw these houses. For $3,000 you can drive away with a new house. For $30,000 you get a 3-bedroom houseboat with everything you want except the glass in the windows and the electrical. So you could just kind of import these things for disaster relief or for the beach in Hawaii, for instance. Korea was interesting, did a project for a cultural museum in Seoul, Museum of History. It was challenging because I just arrived, I had to find a live project, and yet it really was a good way to get involved with the culture. This is an interior we ended up doing. It was a lot of fun. Our students start with, with this sort of thing. To get a feel for their culture. Design centers, we always try to emphasize the importance of the local culture to our students and preserving that culture, so we go from that patchwork collage to the actual design work of the plaza outside the museum, which looks like this, maybe. And I go around teaching how to do, like these animations, which are actually really easy, but they don't know it. And so they're equipped digitally as well as sustainably from a design perspective. So you see the patterns in that little collage animation are repeated in this large plaza in front of the History Museum, which got built kind of emphasizing or reinforcing their own culture. I've got to move quickly, so I'm going to keep walking through this. How did I live in these countries? This was my place. I tend to publish what I did, so I publish on the student work alongside my place. The trick is, just put your clothes on the wall sort of thing. Use what you have. You don't need expensive stuff. Cyprus, terrible division. The Southerners and the Northerners really hate each other. Greeks versus Turks, I suppose. So the student work really reflects that pain a little bit like Libeskind in his Jewish museum, or you can feel the kind of tension. Here's one of the animations. So now I've got these students doing projects for us, which is where you wanted to go. So instead of Stanford helping the poor now helping Stanford, sort of thing. And that's why I use that quote from the world is flat. So high design, it's not just about mediocre design. Design is like upmarket, top level. This was a competition for the rehab of an Olympic park in Berlin, done by Turkish students. This is my house in Cyprus, just to give you an idea of how I live as I go around. It's very easy to pick up a cute place to live on the internet these days if you don't get faculty housing. From Cyprus, I went to a program in Canterbury. They had an overseas program in England. They asked me to teach there, and we picked up projects for the homeless as well as their campus. So this is the proposed new building for the building you just saw in that photograph. And again, these are the Cypriot students, the Turkish Cypriot students. Again, you see that kind of tension designing in England. Quickly, I'm going to take you to Uganda. Just came in from Uganda, and I'm still adjusting because the whole notion of sustainability for people in these places is ridiculous. PhD in sustainability is like, are you kidding me? Because all they do is take Coca-Cola cans and recycle them into toys and cool things. You know, it's like that's how that they don't have a choice of turning air conditioning on and off. There is none. So there's a big divide between East and West, or North and South, when it comes to definition of sustainability. And I'd ask you all to really remember that and consider that, because when you're dealing with impoverished peoples or refugees or whatever, sustainability is a real luxury problem. Okay, so Uganda, I'm thinking, wow, what did I get myself into Uganda? But it was beautiful. Little building built by the Italians there. This was my campus, architecture school, typical scene, very tropical climate, more so than Hawaii. This is how I lived. My bed, my living room furniture, local furniture, chair for $2 sort of thing. Everything super cheap. This is my place. Our site, we did an orphanage in the south of Uganda on this gorgeous, gorgeous lake, and it was just a breathtakingly beautiful site. So as I travel around the world, I can't tell you how many gorgeous places I've discovered that nobody seems to know about. Our client, so this is what they have now, and this is what my Ugandan students designed for them. And for the Ugandan students who, honestly, some came from situations like this, to go here is quite satisfying. I'll play you the craft center from the Children's Village Orphanage. Student dinner. This is a huge file. It's like 2 gigabytes or something to put this to work. So let's see. Everything is, of course, you got your rainwater harvesting tank, but treated as an art object at the same time. This is just earth brick. The only thing on the windows are shutters and crash the computer. Screens, mosquitoes, got a concentrated malaria, dengue fever, stuff like that. Clean water is really hard to get. They only have latrines. So sustainability, do we want latrines because it's sustainable? You try having a latrine for a year, you know. So really, you redefine your notion of sustainability. I don't think it's going to work. Let me try another one. So have to be patient. Well, what I'm going to show you next are just some more animations done by Ugandan students, sustainable design, but their definition of sustainability for local, so local heroes, local change stuff. And then I take you into my work done in Hawaii. For me, Hawaii is, I love Hawaii, so I can say this. I have children and grandchildren here, but it's also kind of banana republic, and we have a huge homeless problem, and it's like, wow, this is supposed to be the United States of America. How do we have such a huge homeless problem? This is like outrageous. So we do tons of designs to solve the homeless problem, and are looking for funding for that. Let's see, where I put it on there. My tech. What do you think?
I would close it and start over if you need to. Restart the program.
That's dangerous.
Or that too.
May I ask a question? What's an example of a solution to the homeless problem in regards to architecture, or what you described?
Well, every culture and every context is different. Hawaii? We're talking about Hawaii?
Yeah, what you just mentioned.
Well, this university is a great start, because the homeless are just down the street from us, right? And the population native Hawaiians here is 70%, that's fantastic. However, all the students are commuters, and do we know how they're living, you know, what their own situation is? Some are okay, some are not. So the next step would be for this place, which is tons of Title III money and all that, to do some housing. Student housing, faculty housing, get people into better conditions. That's one example.
Okay.
But that's the luxury deal. If you just want to go to the beach and do something there, the little tent I showed you in the tsunami housing, that'd be cool.
Okay.
And there's plenty of money through HUD. The problem with HUD is they just want to build those engineering type shacks, but nobody wants to live in them. They don't have architects on board. It is not more expensive to build something with love and taste, in fact. And for me, that's a major part of sustainability, is good design, not just shelter. If you don't think design influences the human soul, imagine yourself in a ghetto or whatever. Can you imagine a homeless situation or a ghetto? You got 8 kids screaming on a kind of broken concrete front lawn with plywood on the windows and a door that's falling off. Yeah? Now imagine yourself in a 5-star hotel lobby, I don't know, want a surf rider or something? Where do you feel better? Is there anybody in this room who feels better in the ghetto? Every human being appreciates decent design. It's there's a misconception that people don't, but they do. It's just like high art. You are sweet. So it's not about technology in the end. What I found also as I walk around the world doing this stuff is it's about love and relationships. Honestly, it's nice to have good design that helps, but I've seen a lot of lonely rich people too. So the most important thing is first relationship, because you can be homeless on a beach but be surrounded by good friends and you have a quality of life that way that you can't have living in a mansion or the Moana Surf Rider. So first it's love and relationships before everything else. So for me, sustainability is first about quality of life, which is about quality of relationships. And then it's through the relationships that you get involved in stuff like this and can touch students' hearts so they go and do this for their own. Who's following me here?
Me. We have about 7 minutes left.
Okay, well, we'll see if I can just show you a little. It's really good work. And thank you so much. Okay, let's see if we can go back.
I noticed in that one hut you used earth bricks, or they used earth brick. Is that what you try to focus on, using the natural resources?
There's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. This whole notion of sustainability, consider the possibility that it's a ridiculous notion.
But I mean, like, natural resources as in for them easily to access in their environment. Yeah.
Locally
Yeah,
sourced
you always
products.
use local craftsmen, local resources, local materials. We were in the
Right.
middle of a bamboo forest, so if I can pull this up for you, you'll see a ton of bamboo. Just go back.
What's sorry, like the tarp one at
Painted
10?
bamboo? Yeah.
Do you know like what that would be made out of?
No, that's Sri Lankan student's
Okay.
invention, and he used a silk stocking for his
Oh,
motto.
Something like that.
I mean, but if it went into construction, you gotta work all that stuff out for sure. Let me just try to show you one more, because they're really beautiful. Great, Josh.
On current slide.
Let's see if you can, current slide, and then click the lower left of the image and start the animation. This is a nursery school in southern Uganda. Yeah, let's see if we can see this one. So you saw the picture of all those little islands in the water. So this is on that hill, and it's for little children you saw who are living in the mud shacks. They sleep on the floor, 30 in a room, little boys on one side, little girls on the other side. Not even any mats, just the dirt floor. It's doing it again.
There we go. Seems like a big file.
Is it because they don't know how to make mats, or they don't have the resources?
Zero money.
I was gonna say cost.
Zero money.
Well, I mean, how much does it cost to go naturally make it?
So what the students are doing is they're using bamboo from the bamboo forest. Well, it's also just, they're orphans. Look, the population rate in Uganda is 7 children per woman. They don't even include the guys because there's so many fathers involved. And the president goes around saying, have children, have children. So just imagine if you're an impoverished woman and you got 7 little kids and you cannot even feed yourself. It's
Right,
like,
right.
and you're being encouraged to have more kids. It's just like the craziest. So you're dealing with all this policy, cultural stuff at the same time as you're doing this. But here's the cool thing. So these Ugandan architecture students learn how to do this. They learn good design. They can produce the program. So now we go to an NGO, in this case called Idarisa, who's stocked with good stuff to show their donor base to get the money to build. I don't know if you've been following the news, but you got Madonna in Malawi. Problem there is she put in $3 million. Where'd the $3 million go? They didn't even break ground, and the $3 million was spent because it's so corrupt. So you're dealing with that sort of thing all the time. So what do we discover here? I brought a bunch of little t-shirts from a church in Hawaii there during one of my trips. Maybe we had 70 little t-shirts. I'm looking at, all of a sudden, giving out these t-shirts, 500 kids show up and they're all orphans. They're not. But so you get into all these lies and corruption and stuff, which really makes it hard for the donor base in England, which is where these guys are, to believe that the money's going to be spent on this and not on somebody's Swiss bank account. There's now something called, I'll end with this, the Restitution of Illegal Funds Act out of Switzerland. Switzerland's beginning to reveal the names of the owners of these bank accounts, like Idi Amin types, and what's in there, and help countries get the money back. But yeah, it's a brand new thing. But and so I looked at architecture between these divided nations too, which was more an academic exercise. But I will show you the thing about North Korea, because that's so much in the news. One of the problems with North Korea, so this is their major, iconic hotel that's still not finished because North Korea just can't get its act together. And so it's like a glaring symbol, it's a glaring embarrassment is what it is. And what they're doing is they're trying to cover up for what's really happening in North Korea. It's just like Uganda, people are incredibly impoverished in there. It's like, you have a shop with literally one can in the window. Like the Safeway in North Korea, it's got one can of something for sale. That's how bad it is. So they want money is pretty much what they're doing.
Do you have
So
any
I'll leave it
pictures
there.
from Hawaii?
Sorry?
Do you have pictures from Hawaii?
Okay, Hawaii very quickly. Homeless situation, you're all familiar with it. Project we're doing out of Chaminade, we took over the red light district in Wahiwa, a whole block, Surfing the Nations, they bought the whole block. This is what it looked like. This is what the students have redesigned. It's now being painted. That's a Fiji project, but here's start. See if you can start that one, Rachel. This is a Chaminade student. So the Chaminade students couldn't do any of this stuff either when I arrived, interestingly enough. So getting them to design and do animations was a bit like pulling teeth, but now they can. And hopefully they will do something for the homeless problem in Hawaii as I go back to Britain.
The change in Wahiwa is noticeable. I was at the coffee shop last Saturday night, and that whole block was just full of young kids.
Thank you. That's our project.
They had a band in one of the buildings, and
Yeah.
2 years ago it was strip clubs in the dirtiest part of Oahu.
That's right. So you can effect change, and that for me is sustainable. It started with the relationship with the client, good old friends, bought the city block, the students, and so this is a student animation from Chaminade.
Yeah, a former student of mine is helping run the coffee shop.
Oh, lovely.
More copy.
Yeah, sweet. They finished the shave ice shop. That looks great. Okay, next.